Hi, my name is Kaitlin Solimine. I am originally from New Hampshire and I now live in San Francisco, and I have a book that just came out called Empire of Glass, and it takes place in China. I've come to China with my book to speak on a few panels about a few different subjects, and I was just in Suzhou earlier this week, and now I'm here in Beijing today and tomorrow talking about my book and my experiences in China. It took me about 10 years from inception to publication, I would say. I always loved writing. I was very bad at it, and so I definitely needed to learn, and basically became a writer through writing this book. I think early on what drew me to China was very different from what eventually compelled me to continue to return to China. So I had never left the US before I went to China in 1996. I was 16. And China then was very different from what it is now. And I was drawn to China because I just honestly wanted to leave my small town in the US. Later, through the time that I lived in China, I think what I came to learn was that China and the US, while they're so dramatically different in some ways, that actually I found that my relationships with Chinese people were very similar to relationships that I had in the US, and sometimes even deeper. And so I really just felt a very personal connection to China, and it was more about the people that I fell in love with here, rather than, kind of the setting. Well, of course the setting is very different, but there was something about those relationships within that setting that were really meaningful to me. One of my favorite stories is I was with my Chinese host family, and we were going to the Fragrant Hills outside of Beijing. And at the time, which I think they still do some places now, you had to pay a foreigner entrance fee, which was more expensive. And my Chinese mother didn't want to pay that, being frugal and smart. So she tried to pass me as Chinese or as a family member. And so I had to, thankfully it was raining, and I had to cover up and try to sneak through the gates. And I thought at that time especially, it felt like such a little rebellion because, my understanding of China then was that everyone followed the rules, and it was a cute little way to get to know her, and also that we kind of felt like when I did pass through that we had really succeeded. So I really had no idea what China was like. I mean, remember when I first came to China, it was before the internet, it was before, okay, there was internet, but there were no computers. I didn't even have I didn't have a laptop, I had no smartphone. We wrote letters back home and waited 3 weeks for the information to come back, for our friends to write back. I think I just knew China to be something completely different from what I had grown up with. I had taken 2 years of Chinese before coming, so I did speak a little bit, but it was dramatically different from what I guess expected, because I didn't even know what to expect. But interestingly enough, every time I return, it's different. So it definitely keeps me on my toes, because it just keeps changing so much. I don't live in China now, although I hope maybe down the road to move back. I have a 2-year-old daughter, and she speaks fluent Chinese. I have a nanny who is from Tianjin. So my daughter has a kind of thick Tianjin accent, which I didn't know was a thing really until I had her. So there's some little quirks with that, but between the two of us, it's crazy that we live in the US and yet she's able to really legitimately, hold full conversations with people in Chinese.